join us. Jess has been in the industry for a short period of time, not really. It's been around for a little while, and now I've seen her face pop up a few different times. But what actually grabbed my attention was she offered recently on Finance and Coffee to take people through her end-to-end process, and obviously started a journey herself where she was working ridiculous hours, like many of us are, and found a way, I guess, to shorten her week so that she could spend some quality time doing other things in her life other than just doing what many of us do every single day. And I just found it really, really valuable. So I reached out to her and asked whether she could also share some of the highlights with us today. And Jess, if you can just give everyone a wave and say hello.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
So look, maybe in your own words, if you can just quickly, I guess, introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, what your relationship is to the industry, would be great.
Sure. I'm Jess. I've been working as a broker in my own business since 2015, full-time. I sort of started in 2014, but just sort of mucked around, got my accreditations and all that. But since 2015, was working full-time. We specialise in investment lending for property investors. And yeah, so from there, just sort of built my own business, started off on my own, just winging it, doing it all myself, and sort of built my business from there. I don't have a huge business. We settle probably, 45 million a year. Just at the moment, I've got one full-timer and a VA, and I probably work about 5 hours a week in the business. So I'm
sure there's a lot of people out there who would love to settle $45 million a year, only working 5 hours a week in their business. And I think you're in some ways the epitome of, what the industry is about. And I've seen a lot of brokers who, were either working in a corporate bank or they had a broker experience themselves, and they thought, I really want to be able to offer this service to my community and the people that are important to me. The broker industry is made up of a lot of small to medium-sized businesses. There's a few mammoth giants out there, but most of us, I call it, the mum and dad broker who really just wants to look after their connections and community and add value. And I think your business epitomizes that, but you've also managed to somehow find a bit of work-life balance. Can you share a little bit, I guess? What was your situation leading up to some of the decisions you made to make changes in your business? What did that feel like? What was that experience like for you?
Well, we're at a point where I had Rob, he's my brother-in-law, he works for me full-time. So we had Rob, and I just brought on another broker, Danny, and Rob was working from home, Danny was working in the office with me while she started. And then Danny left. So there was 3 of us, like Danny was a broker, Rob was my para broker, or he was doing processing. So Rob was doing my processing, Danny was taking all her deals all the way through. And then Danny left. And we were in a period where we were super busy. And when she left, we had so much work. And so she left in July and went out on her own, which has been amazing for her. So she's doing awesome, which is brilliant. But I almost died. That 3-month period, I was just so snowed under. And I just remember in October, it was the school holidays. And my husband at the time was a school principal, had 3 kids who were also on holidays. And I couldn't, I took one day to go hiking with the family, and shit went down in the morning and I couldn't go. Like I was...
Wow, yeah.
I was ready just to walk and not stop walking. I was in tears. I was completely overwhelmed. I couldn't breathe. Like I literally couldn't breathe. So, and that's the kind of pressure that we can be under as brokers. It can be that overwhelming, and we can be that accountable to everything. And because, we're dealing with people's deposits and their homes, and there's a lot of responsibility being a broker. And it was at that point that I just thought something has to change here. I can't do this, and I don't live like this. This is not what I signed up for. Like the reason I got into broking to start with was because I could do it from home. I could be around my family. And at least if in a job, I would have got 4 weeks holiday a year, you know, but even as brokers, it can be really difficult to take that time off. So from that point, I started making big changes in the business. And because Rob, my brother-in-law too, we were both working that hard. It wasn't just me doing everything. We were both working so hard, and yeah, it was overwhelming. And I'm sure that there's plenty of people on this call who can relate to feeling like that.
Well, look, I think what also adds to it is many of us get into this industry because we genuinely care about customer outcomes, actually doing it for the right reasons. I think it's the strength of our industry and why partly why it's growing so quickly. And you take that personally. If sometimes when you let somebody down, or someone's going through something and you go, well, do I take my kids to whatever sport I need to take my kids to today, or do I try to solve that problem for that client who potentially could lose their deposit? It's quite a stressful situation to be in. Yeah, look, I think your story is very relatable. So the obvious question, what did you do?
Good question, really important question. So there's a few levers that you can pull to start sort of extracting yourself out. But the first thing is you've got to make the decision that you're not going to do it all yourself anymore. That can be a really hard thing, especially if you're a bit of a control freak. I'm actually not. I love giving everything to everybody else to do. But at that time, because we'd lost a staff member, it was just really a perfect storm for us. So I just looked at ways that we could just create more space in our business. There were a lot of inefficiencies. I was working from home, Rob was working from home. It was, from memory, sort of just before COVID. And we were just, Rob used to work in my office, so he knew sort of how I work, but we work in very different styles. So there were a heap of inefficiencies in the way that we were doing things. And I sort of came to really understand this because in the February after that, Rob went on holidays and I had to do everything. So we'd already started outsourcing again. I'd used Xsource for years, and it was only once I had Danny and Rob that we stopped and we thought we'd do our own processing and bring it all in-house. But as soon as Danny left, we started outsourcing with Xsource again, and we still do now. So that was a really good way just to get rid of that bottleneck and take something completely off our plates. Anyone who saw the call that I did the other day would know that Xsource is a huge part of our business, and yeah, wouldn't be without them. Whether you were using Xsource or some other sort of outsourcing solution for that, that's a really easy way to get a quick win and free up a heap of time straight away.
Very, very good. And look, what other things were you able to implement? Look, before you answer that question, this is something which I'm personally quite passionate about, coming from a coaching in my background, originally counselling, around mental health as well, is I've noticed a lot of brokers and professionals in finance get a lot of their identity from what they do for their customers. So it's not only do they take it personally, so there's that emotional stress that comes with it. They don't know how to disengage or let go of control or delegate to someone else. And you did say that you're good at delegation. I want to challenge you on that or explore that just a little bit, because in my finding is you don't actually become passionate about something or good at something until you start doing it. A lot of people I work with say that, they're control freaks, but it's only because they haven't started to give up control. When you do start to give up control, then you actually fall in love with delegation. But it rarely starts that way. Was there a moment for you where I guess you've discovered your love of delegating or getting people to help you, and not just it all be about you?
I think I'm sort of intrinsically lazy. I love to have the biggest bang for buck with the minimal amount of effort. Right. And it's not lazy with a crap outcome, it's lazy with the best outcome possible. So I think what it is, you can still be a control freak, but instead of controlling what you do to get the outcome, you just shift that to controlling your system and your culture. So for me, customer service has always been the benchmark of our business. we're responsive, we're thorough, we know our clients, they can get a hold of us within reason, and that kind of thing. Like having that really amazing customer experience is something that I'm an absolute control freak about. But now we've created a system within our business to make sure that that customer service is maintained, but it doesn't have to all come from me. So yeah, it just changes from being you controlling everything to you controlling the system that controls everything.
Yeah, and you're still trying to control the outcome for the customer.
Oh, definitely.
It's just acknowledging that maybe I can actually deliver a better outcome for my customers with help.
Well, yeah, you don't do anyone any good if you're dead.
Yeah, no, that's very true, very true. It's like I always liken it to like a parent-child relationship where, you know, I use the example of, you know, when your child falls off their bike and they hurt themselves, you don't feel hurt, first of all. You know, you don't blame the child. You go, well, how can I help that child get back on the bike and ride again? And it's the same in you know, your relationship to your business. It's like a parent-child relationship where you're trying to mature this business to be its own entity that operates on its own. It still gives value back to the world and contributes to the family, but you can't take it personally, and you can't do everything for the child, or otherwise the child never really is able to blossom. And I know it's something that you kind of just go like, oh, it just happens, but it must have taken a fair bit of work to get to that stage and understanding, well, what is my business? Who is my business? How do I support my business? How do I nurture it? How do I grow it? How do I give it the resources and the support it needs to grow? And it sounds like it's something you've done very, very well. So talking about that, what are some of the things other than outsourcing using Xsource, which is, you know, great business, and there's many others out there? What other things do you oversee? What do you measure on a daily basis? What do you look at? What do you think about when you wake up in the morning? I would love some insight into how your brain works, how your day actually runs.
Sure. Well, because we are fully online and we always have been. So COVID, we didn't miss a beat because we were already fully online, fully paperless. Everyone works from home. So that was no real change for us. So when I get up in the morning, I just look through the emails, and we use Trello, which is what that whole presentation was about. And I'm happy to share the link so anyone can jump in and have a look at that. But because we are all remote now, what we didn't have to start with was a process for doing things and a way that we could easily see everything. Our aggregator software, from a workflow perspective, just wasn't cutting it. It was too complex. And because I was the only broker, it was just really expensive for everyone to have their own logins. And the task management on that, we just didn't find was working for our business. It was really overwhelming the way that it was set up. So we still use our aggregators CRM, obviously, for the compliance and pushing the deal through and all the actual technical stuff. But we use Trello as a workflow. So now we've got all our customers in all our sort of phases of the customer journey. They all have their own card in Trello with checklists that automatically pop up. And we live and die by Trello now, where before we had no visibility of what anyone else was doing or where certain deals were. It would take a phone call where we'd both be sitting on the phone for an hour and a half to update everything, and it was just so inefficient. So now we all have access to Trello. When someone does something, they have their name, their photo, and they can put the date when a certain landmark gets done. So if I do a valuation, I pop my face on there, the date that it's done, and I tick the box. So anyone then who jumps in can see that the valuation's been ordered. It just makes excess communication, excess meetings not a thing, because the goal is that anyone can jump in at any time and see exactly where a deal is at, just by jumping into their card in Trello.
And we will share the link to the video as well to everybody. It's definitely worth watching, and you get quite into some of the detail around how you do it, which I think is fantastic. So rather than ask questions about that, because everyone will get the chance to look at that. One of the challenges I see is, you're a very, very busy broker. You're time poor. To set up something like Trello or Slack or Broker Engine, or there's a number of different options out there. It actually takes not just time to set it up, it takes a lot of thought, first of all, around, well, what outcome am I wanting to achieve, and how do I build a process, and how do I manage people to that process? What was your thought process like leading up to the decision that you made around, okay, I'm going to set aside time to do this. And what did that feel like? And then what was the outcome for you?
The first thing I always looked at before I hired my first employee, before I even outsourced anything, was always, what do I hate doing the most? What's killing me in my business right now? Like, what one thing? Because you can't tackle everything all at once. So you've got to think about what's the one thing that I'm absolutely hating doing right now, and what can I do about that one thing? And like quickly, for example, servicing calculators can take you so long because they're all different. Like, even just doing one thing like that can take so much time off your plate. And I think as quickly it gets better and better, it'll take more and more of that wasted time off your plate and create that space. So it's all about incrementally creating more space in your business. It's not going to happen all at once, but it can happen really quickly once you start. And the more space that you I got Rob in originally to do my servicing calculators for me, because that was one thing. I hated the data entry. I'm not a fine detail person. I'd rush it. Rob's really fine detail orientated. So he goes in, does a really thorough job of them. And so I took that off my plate first of all, but now he uses quickly. So that takes time off his plate, which creates more space for him to do more deals or do more customer facing things, money, income producing or customer facing. Those two things are the priority tasks. So taking something as boring and non-impacting as servicing calculators off our plates just means that we can provide that better customer service and do more important things.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's hard sometimes when you look at your business and where you're at, and then you look at the ideal business and you think, how do I ever get there? And you can't make that jump. You just can't. And sometimes, I actually posted this the other day in the closed Facebook group, that sometimes the answer to your problem doesn't exist yet. You actually have to take other steps first before the answer will come along. And I love how you positioned that just find one thing in your business that you can fix today. And it can be something small. It can just be one little change, and that can make a huge difference. Look, one of the things I am interested in hearing you talk about, because it almost sounds impossible, is when you talk about the 5-hour work week. Now that you've been able to outsource a lot of the grunt work within your business, what do you actually spend your time doing now? What does your week look like?
Really, the only things that I do is I look at the Trello board, make sure that everything's happening as it should. If there's anything on there that is overdue or is taking too long or has had a date pushed back too far or something like that, because all the dates are on there, so they come up when something's due. I overview that, and I just keep the team accountable to doing the things that they need to do. And I just let them know because there's a bit of resistance to changing and to using it to its full capacity. And I just said, look, I'm going to ring you every day if this is not done. It's just part of, if you want to work in our business, this is how we do it. There's just no two ways about it. And, it's pretty good work from home, that kind of thing. So I've got no oversight as to how anyone spends their days. All I want oversight on, though, is that the work's getting done. So I'm always just checking to make sure that those things are done. And when I say always, like once a day, once every couple of days, because you don't need to check it every day because you know where things are at. You can see it really easily. But also, because there are obviously times when you're busier or you're not busier, by keeping an eye on how things are going generally, if I can see there's 10 applications to lodge, obviously Rob is not going to be able to do that all on his own within a couple of days. Like, that's too much. So then I jump in and help. So occasionally I'll work 5 or 10 hours, and other times I'll work 1. So the only things that I do are the things that the broker has to do. So the IDs and the loan structuring. Rob does a lot of that himself. He's worked with me a long time now, so he knows how we do things. But occasionally he'll, have something that comes from left field or not quite know what to do, or, so then I'll jump in and do that as well. But yeah, just basically the only things that I need to do as a broker are the things that I do. Yeah,
no, look, it's interesting. Look, at my brain's starting to wonder a little bit, because I'm reflecting on, I guess, conversations I've had with brokers who were in a similar situation to what you were. And I'm thinking of some examples right now where even just taking that first step into outsourcing or delegating to other people and finding the frustration of having to train someone up, which it can be difficult. Look, maybe it's something I can get you to comment on, or even just to raise. It might be turn into a bit of a discussion later. So even as in getting quality outsourcing now is becoming more difficult as well. I think COVID has kind of created that. What do you look for? What traits do you try to find in a support person that you know you can actually work with? And earlier you mentioned about being detail orientated, the fact that you'll call someone up and say, we need to get this done, and this is my way of doing it. What's made you? How have you found the right people to surround yourself with? Is what I'm asking, I guess, because it is quite difficult.
Well, Rob's my brother-in-law, right? So he kind of, it was a bit of a, working with family can really pose a lot of challenges, and it has. Like, we've worked with each other for, I think, 4 years now. And for the first couple of years, it went really well because Rob has, 35 years experience. He used to work for NAB in business banking. So he knows his way around credit and banks generally. But he was getting pretty stressed at his job and it wasn't working out for him anymore. So I said, oh, look, come work for me, because I'm pretty, I didn't really think too hard about it, to be honest. You probably should think a little bit harder before you employ someone, but it's worked out really well. But we always said right from the start, look, family comes first. If it's not working, we're just going to pull the pin really early. And we've had conflicts and sort of worked them through, which has actually been quite good for our relationship, because he sees the best and worst of me and I see the best and worst of him, but that's how it goes. So with Rob, I was really lucky, but if you're employing someone who's not your family, someone who's got a credit background, I think would be really beneficial. But ideally, paying a bit more and employing someone who's got experience is going to save you time. Even if it's just knowledge. Like, he'd never been a broker, he'd never worked in broking or anything like that, but he knew how finance worked. So that was really beneficial and allowed him to come in, and the learning curve wasn't quite so dramatic. You can go cheap and have someone brand new who knows nothing, but that's going to take a lot of your time, which is something you don't have. So I would always be looking for someone who's either got experience but that's why I love outsourcing, because they do it day in, day out. They know what they're doing. Yeah. For me, I would pay for experience, but most people have either time or money. And you go into this because you've got no time. So you must have money. And sometimes you do need to spend that money to get the leverage. And it might be expensive to start with, but it pays off really quickly.
Yeah, it's getting the right person. Look, it's probably an area which I've spent a fair bit of time is trying to help people recruit the right people into their business. Getting it wrong can be quite costly as well. So
and a waste of time.
There's another session here which I'll probably run one day around. Just what are the best pathways into our industry and how do we create them? I don't think we do it well as an industry. Most brokers you talk to or people in the industry are either related to someone in the industry. That's how they found out about it. They had a really poor broker experience and they thought, I could do that better. I'm going to become a broker. Or they've come out of banking and they've gone, well, I don't want to just offer one product. I want to be able to really service my customer. Outside of that, it's not many other places it comes from. Even joining the industry, if you're new to industry, there's only one or two really good options out there to get training unless you know the right person. Look, and I know it's a little bit off topic, but it's just where my brain goes thinking about, trying to solve some of these problems that we face. I think it's somewhere where we, definitely a conversation we need to have in the future. Is there any, I guess, just in closing, is there any final tips or thoughts that you have? Say, if there's a broker, on this session today who's sitting there feeling stressed, who may have literally seen your name and the subject that you'll be talking about and thought, I need this. What parting words of hope do you give them? What should their next step be?
I think the next step, once you're just overwhelmed, just look at what you can cut out quickly. Look at the things that you hate doing that are taking up far too much of your time, and just do one thing at a time. Just start creating something. Because if you don't take that step to do something, and it doesn't take long, like with Exsource, for example, or any other outsourcing one, they're pay per deal. So you can use them really incrementally just to take that excess off your plate. It doesn't have to be a massive big thing. It can just be, okay, I'm just going to give them a deal a week just so I can have that tiny bit of time back. Yeah, you can make it work for you, but just getting someone who knows what they're doing straight up, it just makes it so much easier, because having to train someone is super time consuming. And I just think employing someone should be your last option, because that's going to take a lot of time. Even just creating the system, you don't have a system yet. You need to have a decent system built. You need to know what's important to you, so you can get someone in and go, okay, this is how we do it. But if you get someone in out of desperation, everyone's going to be winging it, and it can end up being a lot more mess than, which you don't want. You're already messy enough, you know?
Yeah. It's that whole, the difference between delegating and abdicating responsibility. And I've seen many brokers do it. They just get someone in, they dump everything on them, and that person leaves, and then they have to get back involved in the business again. It's a vicious cycle. Look, I usually don't say this until the end, but because I just know you're as passionate about it as me. If anyone is out there really feeling the stress of this, like as in, I'm happy to give half an hour up to talk to anybody out there, or even point them in the right direction and give them some advice. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not going to try to talk you into anything. I just genuinely think that this is something we need to continue to talk about. That's part of the reason why I created this platform in the first place. And I know you've been out there very publicly offering assistance, and I've seen you help a lot of people as well. And I just want to get that message out there that people, you're not alone. If you're out there right now feeling really, really stressed in your business, you're not alone. There is people who are generous enough and willing enough to help you out and point you in the right direction. So don't keep it to yourself. Reach out to someone. Reach out to your aggregator. Reach out to some groups like us, or even people like Jess, who experienced people in the industry who know what it's like and been through it. Feel free to. Well, look, I really appreciate your time, and look, we could talk for ages, and it's such a refreshing story, because it's a true success story. I think of what broker businesses, the journey that we're meant to go on. It hasn't happened overnight for you, but you found your way there, where you're able to get some of your life back and make things a bit easy.